All right, we're back again.
I've been on a late night, making sure your plate right. We paranoid hearing sirens again. I've been trying to make time, not to be statewide. Hope I'm on the safe side, flying in the wind. Hey, you know I double back, right after running last. I thought you wanted a hustle, a girl that come with that. I need that girl, that humble pack. It'll try to put you on to something you ain't never had. Tripping all the time, we don't spend. I pull up and got a smile.
Hey, good evening.
Working.
I'm so sorry. I want to apologize for that. I have no idea what happened.
I think it was actually my fault. I feel
Okay.
like it was me updating my phone, which makes me feel so old.
There's no problem at all. I was on here like trying to like press every single button. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? I'm so confused. Now I was like sweating. Ugh, what an evening. But anyways,
Sibley?
you said what?
Do you work at Sibley?
I do actually. I did. Well, not anymore, but I did. Yeah.
Oh,
Wait, you've been there?
I work there.
No way. Still?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I used to work there in the ICU.
Oh, awesome. I'm
Yeah.
on delivery in the postpartum unit.
Oh, okay. What's that? The fifth floor? Is it fifth or sixth?
Third and
Third. Okay, yeah, I remember. I've been up there one time. That's crazy. Small world.
yeah, super.
Anyways, thank you for agreeing to do this interview, and welcome to the Village Doctors. My name is Kwame. So I'll just open the floor and then we'll get started right away because I know we're running late on time.
Okay.
So if you could start, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I do a lot, so it's a little bit hard.
You do a lot. We're trying to get into all of it.
Okay. So I'm Charnise Littles, born and raised in PG County. I am a mother of one. I'm a Howard grad. I'm an MPH.
HU.
You know, I'm an MPH student at GW right now. I am an international board certified lactation consultant.
Okay.
I doula, and I'm developing a birth center in PG County. So it's
Wow.
kind of the grand scope.
Yeah. So basically, you do everything, like you said.
I do some things, but I only do things that I love. So that's really important.
Gotcha. So the first thing is thank you actually for explaining your the acronym. We put that on the flyer, and everyone was like, "What does that stand for? It's so long." And I was like, "We all gonna find out together." Can you tell us like how that came about, or like what it stands for, how that came about? What does that entail you? What does that credential allow you to do?
Yeah, I like to keep it simple. So the acronym is IBCLC. It stands for International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. But all I tell people that I do is help families figure out how to feed babies.
Okay.
And that sounds super simple to a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? Don't you just feed it and then it's done? And sometimes yes, but sometimes no. There's still a clinical aspect to it. So sometimes people are nursing or breastfeeding or chest feeding and it's not going well.
Right.
Their milk supply is a little crazy, or maybe their health condition is complex. That makes it complex. And so we help families just figure out how to navigate feeding their children and really helping them reach their goals with whatever that looks like and help fit infant feeding into people's personal lives.
Okay. Yeah. And I like how you explained it as well, because I mean, personally, I'm a nurse and I do nursing, and I feel like people just kind of combine everything clinical wise into nursing and just like keep moving, but that's not really how it is. It's like a very, very like wide or broad aspect of it. So that's pretty dope. We can start from the beginning. What did you major in undergrad? You said you went to Howard. What was your major? How was it like beginning?
Yeah, so when I first got to Howard, I thought I was going to be a PA.
Okay.
That wasn't in the cards. I majored in health science. I minored in health education with in community health.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I just kind of took it from there. I had a lot of professors kind of like pushed me towards the maternal and child health realm and
Mhm.
the health realm. And I really loved it because I got to kind of see how crappy we were in the US, to be honest, like how horrible our medical system can be. So that was like really cool. And I was,
What was the turning point for you, majoring wise, to realize that you don't want to be a PA anymore? Like, was it like one shadowing experience? Like, what was the major turning point?
it was life. So my senior year, when I was supposed to start like clinicals and like really getting into like the upper division of things, I got pregnant with my son. And so I was trying to figure out, how do I navigate motherhood in clinicals, or how do I navigate like this new infant
Yeah.
and the rest of my life? Like, what is this really going to look like? And I feel like I got to a point where I was like, I need to graduate, like, to leave. If anyone,
100%.
my beloved Howard,
Yeah.
so they can have a hold on you for a really long time. Sometimes getting out is what's necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Because obviously there's a lot to accomplish, and then being in school for so long, you acquire so much depth and a lot of responsibilities. Just that's not it. Um, Somebody asked the question. I feel like we can get into it right now. They said, "I didn't know there was such a thing as a lactation consultant. How did you find out about the career?"
It was so funny. I didn't know either. Like, I had no idea. I found out about it because during my senior year, I had an internship on infant feeding. My professors knew that I was breastfeeding and that I was a full-time student, and that was
Mhm.
just, so in between classes, I'm pumping to save milk for my kiddo, and then I'm running back to class and I'm like figuring it out.
Yeah,
Like, oh, well, Howard at the time was going through a certification called Baby Friendly, which truly is just like breastfeeding or nursing friendly. Um, so I was doing callbacks to families on how they got help with infant feeding. And it was trashy at the time. They were like, there was help, I needed help, I
yeah,
help, help me. And so that just kind of moved on to like thinking about where in public health do people get help with infant feeding, and where are those places? What do those places look like? Who's there? And Howard had a WIC clinic. And so if anyone knows about WIC, it's the special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children.
I didn't
And
know that.
breastfeeding support, and they provide infant formula for those who need it, and food, and like checks to go to the grocery store to get food, or to go to the farmers market, and so, or just to get nutritional advice. So
Yeah,
as a breastfeeding educator, to educate families on how to feed their kiddos.
yeah,
And supervisor was an IBCLC, and so I'm working there like doing my job, and
yeah.
people acronym out, and I'm like, what is that? Like, I should Google it. So I Googled it, and then I
Yeah.
started.
And then the long road started.
Yeah, it did.
So that's actually interesting what you were talking about. I mean, I had the same question as a person too. I had no idea what a lactation consultant was until I was doing my rotation, my clinical rotation for OB, so maternal, mother and newborn, and they were like, "Here's a lactation consultant, shadow her," and I was like, "That's crazy! Like people like actually do this." I had no idea what it was, but then as I shadowed her, I think I shadowed her for like 2 hours, and then we visited like 6 family rooms, and she was like educating the whole time, and I was like, "That's like a pretty cool job." Like, I mean, for that day, it didn't seem like it was like crazy stressful. But then she like loved what she was doing. She would come in, go room to room to room, educate, do what she has to do, and then consult with some like doctors. And then that was pretty much it. And I was like, this is pretty dope. And then that was the first time I was like introduced to it. So you're actually the second person I've met that's a lactation consultant. That's pretty crazy.
I love it. I used to do rotations as a preceptor for med students, and
Okay.
it was fun because I feel like they don't teach med students about lactation in school.
Yeah.
It was really cool to be like, this is where like my specialty intersects with yours, and like this is how we work together on all these different levels that they didn't even know about.
Yeah. That's pretty dope. Like that's crazy. Um, we'll hop into another question before I continue on with my question. Someone said, I have a question. Which type of infant feeding is better, breastfeeding or formula? Ooh, we jumping right into it.
Tough question. Ooh, the politically right answer to that question is whatever parent wants to do is the right choice, right? And
Okay.
so very much so a believer in your body, your baby, your family. You do what you want for the reasons that you want.
Hmm.
When we go to the science of things, there is no negotiation about it. Like breast milk was made, human milk was made particularly for humans. And so there's nothing that gets better than that. When it comes to the components of human milk and you compare them to the components of formula, they do not compare. They're very different. And the benefits of human milk alone, in terms of like for the baby, even for the person who's feeding the baby, is amazing in terms of like for the parent, reducing risk of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, type 2 diabetes, obesity. When you look at the baby, it's reducing the risk for respiratory infections, for ear infections, for heart conditions, for obesity and diabetes as well. It's just so many things that science just cannot take away from. But
Yeah.
people choose to do like what they want. You know, our society isn't a society that really supports infant feeding for a long time. Like when we
Hmm.
think about infant feeding as a whole or in a worldview, people provide human milk in the world on average for about 4 years. And
Yeah.
we see 4-year-olds nursing a lot. And
Huh.
so it's really different. It's really odd when you try to like fit infant feeding into the US.
Yeah. You're sparking a lot of thought right now. Some of the stuff you're saying I haven't thought about, but it like makes so much sense. So how big of a role does I mean obviously how big a role does comfort play with the parent that's breastfeeding or decides to get formula? Is it all about like their comfort level? Like I prefer to do this than that when you're like consulting usually.
A lot of times it can be comfort level. A lot of times comfort level in terms of prior knowledge. Like, what do I know about this already?
Okay.
Does the knowledge that I have support me doing it, or is it inadequate? And so sometimes we have families, like when I you had my son, we have families where I didn't see breastfeeding. And
Hmm.
so seeing it, am I comfortable with it? Probably not, because I don't really know much about it. If I'm a person who's seen it for generations or a person who took a class on it, or if I had a friend who I saw do it, am I more comfortable with it? Probably so. So it really just depends.
Okay. That makes sense. So my third question for you is, why did you choose this route instead of becoming like an obstetrician or like a gynecologist? I know that we kind of touched on a little bit, touched on the subject a little bit earlier, but a little more in depth, like why you didn't decide to do the other two, because I feel like they all fall under the same umbrella of like maternal health and such.
You pretty much do. That was never a
A
dream.
goal. Okay.
Never thought I wanted to be an OB. I never even thought I wanted to be a midwife. But what I know for sure now is that I want to hire midwives, hire lactation consultants. I do want to do that. But actually being the person to like catch the babies, I like my doula role better. Like I like the role of educating, of being the person who's going to be with the family before delivery, during delivery, and after. I like the role of providing educational support and emotional and physical support,
Hmm.
but really being the person in charge of the medical care in the room.
Okay.
It's so like I see different things. So I'm not just seeing what's wrong medically sometimes and bringing that to people's attention, but I'm seeing the emotional state. I'm seeing the bias in the room. I'm seeing the missed protocols or the bedside manner that needs a little bit of collaboration between the medical team and the family and shared decision making or stuff like that. Like I get to do a little bit more of the
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. And I feel like that's very, very important too. Like the person that's making sure that everything is running without kind of any niche or like disruption in the workflow. Um, Another question by the audience says, "What made you decide to get your master's in public health?" And from I understand, you're getting your MPH right now from the University of George Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So why did you decide to get an MPH, or why are you currently getting an MPH?
It's a hard, so there's two parts to it. So one, I feel like when I look at the people who own birth centers in the nation, um, there's like, you know, I want to have a master's. I want to be able to be like, I know a lot and I am an expert at it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, especially as people of color, we have like this imposter syndrome, and it's like, please do not look at me like I'm this young Black girl who doesn't know,
Yeah.
um, and just know that like I know my shit. So
Yeah.
that's part of it. The other part is there were some tools that I didn't have yet. There were just some tools that I just was not strong at. Like I want to be able to look at programs and policies and evaluate them and improve them in the way that's effective. And that's my focus. So I'm getting my MPH, but my focus is on program planning and evaluation so that the public health programs that I am a part of aren't crappy. You know, working at WIC was an awesome experience. But what I learned was that I hated the way my site ran.
Yeah.
Like, this is not efficient and I wanted to make it better. And so part of my like admissions paper was, can you help me make public health programs less shitty because I'm frustrated.
Right. And that's crazy that you mentioned that too, because I feel like most of the other industries out today, like the tech world or marketing or business, people kind of get ahead based on like their certificates. But once you're in the healthcare field, degrees kind of matter. Like you show up to rooms and it's like, well, what do you bring into the table? And right now, I feel like a bachelor's degree if you're in the medical field is just like, okay, well, you're about average. So what else can you really provide us? So I feel like that's a very, very good indication. What was that? Sorry.
It's really basic.
Exactly. Um, so my next question is, do you have any kind of crazy stories that you've heard from women in labor that just made you say wow or kind of prompt you to take action for creating your business?
Mm, yes and no. I don't think it's like things that people say like a one liner. It's
Mhm.
more the entire experience, like how was it as a whole, and trying to not create that. Like, for example, I was at Sibley Hospital with 2 deliveries in the past 48 hours. So I was there like 30 hours straight. And I literally hopped from one family to another with doula support. I'm
Wow.
so tired. But it was crazy. The last delivery that I was at, there was a male OB who was doing a vaginal check. And then during pushing, he was helping with perineum support, which is kind of just like massaging the perineum to make sure that it doesn't tear too much. And while he was there, he was like, hey, I'm just doing some perineum massage to make sure you don't tear.
Mhm.
And that sometimes it's also called foreplay. And I'm like, how inappropriate is that?
That's
Like,
crazy.
you're like wrist deep in a person's vagina, like
Yeah.
really foreplay. How do we like stop these experiences from like being recreated?
Wow.
It's like, how do we create this environment where we don't have stuff like that happening and
Yeah.
there's someone else controlling the narrative, where we're not looking at health or just like pregnancy and birthing and it being like this old boys club still. Like I don't want to do that.
Absolutely. That's crazy.
Really crazy.
The boldness to even say that in a room full of like clinical people, it's just
Exactly.
wow.
To talk about like how do we hold people accountable, right? And so I feel like that's a lot of my position as a doula is like being transparent with hospitals and with administrations about what I'm seeing and what I feel like is right and wrong based upon what I'm seeing. And that can be really difficult sometimes to make sure that physicians are held accountable for what's happening, but also that we create a better environment for all medical staff and like families to just act right.
Yeah. That's wow. That's crazy. Um, so moving on to my next question. This one's a little bit of a mouthful, but according to I did like a little previous research before we came in, but according to like data from the United Health Foundation in 2019, the maternal mortality rate in DC was like 35.6 per 100,000 births compared to 29.6. What effect will new birthing center in the DMV have on these numbers?
Yeah, hopefully it lowers them. I think that it's not just the birth center, but also not maternity, midwifery led care. So
Mhm.
when you look at midwifery led care, when you look at birthing centers, what you notice is that the level of intervention is much lower. And so in the US, because we are so amazing at tech and all these science and medicine, a lot of times we think that relates to everything. Everything is better when tech is involved. Everything is better when intervention is involved.
Hmm.
It's when it comes to birth, when it's safe and when there are no complex issues present. And so a lot of times we take the low intervention or the low acuity family and we add on these interventions to them that they don't really need.
Yeah.
And we kind of have to like take a step back away from that and really look at, well, what is physiological birth and what is wrong with it? And the
Right.
answer is nothing. And that when people are safe and healthy, the interventions are not necessary and not needed. And we need a space where that's the norm. So when you go into settings for delivery, a lot of times the norm is, oh, well, if nothing's happening in 4 hours, I'm running this medication so that we can speed things up. Where
Wow.
you're at a birth center,
Yeah.
we need things up. We need things to just progress. And if it wants to progress slow and everyone's safe while it's progressing slow, that's perfectly fine. We could
Right.
just chill out.
Exactly. As long as it's progressing and it's safe. So my next question actually ties in with what somebody just asked as well. But I was going to ask, switching over to, you mentioned that you were a mother. How did your birthing experience affect your practice? But in addition to that, she asked, were you scared as a Black woman when you were about to when you were about to have your baby? And did you have a midwife or doula of your own? So it's like a three-part question. You can take it all at once, split it up. It's up to you. I can repeat it if you wanted as well.
Yeah, that's good. Excuse me. So when I got pregnant with my son, I was 21 and I was smart, but I didn't know a lot. So I didn't know what a doula was. I knew what a midwife was. I wasn't really sure how to access a midwife though.
Okay.
So I did not have a doula. I did not have a midwife.
How do you access a midwife? I didn't know you had like that was a thing.
Well, now a lot of midwives are in hospitals, but there were well, I want to say there are and were some in the community as well doing home deliveries or birth center deliveries.
Mm.
And I just felt like it was really hard to establish a relationship with them where when I went online at any hospital to schedule a prenatal appointment, it was like, oh, there you are, your appointment's done in 2 seconds. And it was just quick, fast, and easy. And
Yeah.
that's my experience. I literally was on a wait list for a hospital midwifery practice for like 4 months. So I didn't have prenatal care for about 4 months because I was just like, I really want to be with them, but they're not accepting me.
Yeah.
And I had to just give in and go with the OBs
Huh.
and have a midwife. But I did know that I wanted a natural delivery. I wanted a change in pace from what my family usually did, and my family usually just got the drugs. And
Mm.
definitely just took my time with that one. I had natural delivery. I Yeah, and that was pretty much it. And I breastfed my kiddo.
Okay.
Yeah. I
And then
can't remember part of the question.
yeah, so her question was, in addition to mine, was, were you scared as a Black woman, obviously because of all the, like, everything that goes on daily, and then when you're about to give birth, and then you answered the midwife part. So were you scared as a Black woman? I
I'm
guess.
smart enough to be scared, if that
Okay.
makes, like, I knew the statistics. I was like literally shocked out my mind about them.
Mm.
But I was so young that I just felt like I could do anything. And I wasn't really kind of in my head about it. It was just like, I'm having my natural delivery come hell or high water. Like, this is what I'm doing, and that's it. And I didn't really have too many like mental fears about it. But when it comes to like the clients I support now, even the friends I have now, everybody is pretty much very scared.
Yeah.
And I understand. And I want to say rightfully so. But I want people to know as well that just as many times as we hear these tragedies and these horror stories about there's a million more on women being safe and women being healthy and families coming out okay and Black families just being fine after delivery too. Like both of those exist. And sometimes we forget that.
Yeah. That's wild. way to look at the glass half full, not half empty. I like that. Um, somebody else also asked, how do you deal with mothers who are unable to get their baby to latch? What type of discussion is had? Should people be cautious asking a mother how breastfeeding is going?
Mm. I think it's okay to ask a birthing person how feeding is going. I think that's perfectly fine. I
Okay.
think people don't ask about how the parent is doing enough. I think everyone just looks at this cute
Yeah,
new baby
that's a
and they're just
baby.
like, oh, let me focus all my energy on them. So they don't ask enough. But with the latch, like if it's going wrong, there could be so many reasons as to why. And there could be so many reasons like for strategies to fix it. So it's really hard to say like what to do in that
Especially.
situation. Yeah, it really depends. It's so many things. It's like a very, I don't know how to say it. There are so many factors that can go into infant feeding that it being one thing is probably not a thing. It
Yeah.
really is so many things, and a lot of times you just need to sit down with a professional who's unbiased to help you work towards your goals.
Okay, that's fair. So now we're kind of switching over to the business aspect of your many jobs. um, so business wise, have you always aspired to be like a business owner? We can start that baseline.
No, I haven't. And the so my business is named Birth and Milk Co.
Okay.
Um, and I love it because I never thought about being a business owner. I have heard every single supervisor tell me that people don't need to be telling me what to do, that I need to be in charge. And that's a compliment and not at the same time. But I've always gotten the feedback of you need to be running your own thing because you
Wow.
know how to do it.
That's a
And
good.
it's really hard for me when people do not know how to do it.
Yeah. Oh. So for everyone that's on the live right now, the company name is Birth and Milk Co. So go
Yeah.
follow.
Oh,
Um,
yes, for sure. I can put it in the comments too.
please do. Yeah. But my next question going forward is, so as you've kind of started on this business journey along with your clinical background and as well, have you found any challenges climbing up or learn more about the business side that's so different from the clinical side? Because I mean, personally, I aspire to kind of have like my own business someday when I feel like I'm ready for it. But I do a lot of research in my free time right now, where like I set up business plans and kind of see what's going on and watch the market and stuff like that. And it's very different than like studying like clinical things, and it's more about like, I want to say it's more about networking, but you have to be more self-motivated and be willing to do a lot of things like on your own, that being someone in a clinical setting, you don't have to do that. You kind of just have to like go to work or like see what's going on at work and kind of figure it out from there. Everything's kind of like set out for at least nursing wise, other than business. So has there been any challenges, and how's that going so far?
There are endless challenges. There's challenges like every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even learning about opening a birth center was challenging because it was just like, who's done this before? Where are the people out here who have done it, and where are the people who are Black who have done it?
Right.
And that number is just very low. It's just very low, and so it's very difficult. The networking is important, but what I find is that a lot of times people don't want to share, especially when it's like a very small niche. Like a lot of people are not so open with knowledge. And part could be like, the competition sense. But a lot of people don't have the collaboration mindset. So it's really difficult. It's also difficult because, like you said, you're doing everything. I'm the accountant, I'm the clinician,
Yeah.
I'm the secretary, I'm the CEO. Like it's all levels to everything. And so when things are just starting off and it's like new, it's hard.
Yeah.
Especially because the help that you would want to hire, it's like, well, maybe you don't even have the clientele to support that yet. And so
Exactly.
you just have to take these baby steps, so to speak. So yeah, it could be difficult. Every day is something else, especially with my schedule. It's like
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. How does that work? I mean, it sounds more like a personal question, but how does that necessarily work with your schedule? Like you said, you work the past 30 hours. I mean, 2 days, 30 hours in the hospital, but then you're also like trying to focus on running an entire business and set up a whole business moving forward. How does that work? Both works dynamic work for you.
Yeah,
How
it's
do you make it work?
I give myself a lot of grace and just recognize that I'm doing my best all the time and that's okay. And if I need a rest or if something drops the ball, that happens and I can pick it back up later. It's insane. Like I left Sibley today at like 2 o'clock. It took me about 45 minutes to an hour to pick up my son from school. And then he had piano practice. And then he had karate practice. And then I'm talking to y'all. And then afterwards, I'm going to eat and sleep for the first time in like 2 days.
Oh, dang.
So it's just, it really depends, you know? Every day is different. Every day requires certain things. And I just roll with the flow. Are my emails backed up right now? Yeah. They're a little messy, but it'll be fine. Like everyone's gonna get responded to. All these requests are gonna get taken care of. But people just
Yeah,
have to give grace.
that's crazy. You're on your way to greatness,
It's a
paving the way. Um,
thing too.
So then my next question for you is, so I've here at the Village Doctors, we kind of emphasize that most of our accomplishments are able to come into fruition or manifest it because we have a village of people that kind of help us out and help us along the way to where we are. Do you have any people that you consider in your village or in your circle that kind of have helped promote you or help establish you to where you are currently?
Too many people.
Too many people. That's true.
And it's on every single level. Like my website would not be done if it wasn't for my best friend. Like my the reason why I'm in my field wouldn't be done without one of my counselors at Howard. I'm so clinically strong because of one of my mentors. I am a great educator because of all the educational experience that people have given me to educate others. Like it's a whole list. I think that along my educational journey and along me like developing myself as a lactation consultant,
Mhm.
at every stop of the way, someone has given me something. And so it's just, yeah, everyone has contributed at every single level.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
And then someone asked me before we get going, when you became a lactation consultant, did you automatically become a doula too?
that's a great question. No, those are two totally separate professions. And so I became a lactation consultant. I'm alive and I'm trying to look at my certificate. So crazy. I really don't know. In 2018.
Okay.
Um, Funny enough, I became a doula in 2018 too. But the process of becoming a lactation consultant was much longer. So it required for me 1,000 clinical hours as well as like 14 different college courses, and just like having your preceptors and doing some lactation specific education. So that was just a long process. I think it took me about 2 years to do that, but only because my college credits were already finished because of my major. It was
Right.
already science based, so
Howard.
that
Yeah.
was way easier. Um, in terms of being a doula, that just required me to do like a training, like a week long training. And then I got a couple mentors to like help me and ask questions too. And I think the next month I joined an agency and started doing doula work. And so they're very different from each other.
Okay. And then my last question for you is, do you have anyone, I mean, do you have any advice for anyone who wants to go down this route of owning their own clinic or becoming a consultant or starting their own business, pretty much?
Yeah, I think business plans are so important. Strategic goals are so important. And just know that it's okay to work towards the bigger goal while having these baby steps in process, right? So, of course, the birth center needs a whole location, and that requires lots of money and lots of funding. And in order for a business to not close a year after it opens, you need to have like strategic planning and budgeting in place. And so, right now, we're operating at like with providing in-person and virtual lactation support and doula support, but not births, like not the clinical management of a
Yeah.
birth. And so the baby steps are okay while looking at the bigger picture, and just know that like each day you're getting closer and closer. That plus like mentorship, oh my God, it matters so much. Do not do
Really?
this alone at all. It is
How
not
big
meant
would you
to be done
consider
alone.
mentorships?
Huh?
How big would you consider mentorships in the process?
They're huge because a lot of times you think you're crazy. And I
Mm,
feel like my mentors really help me understand that no, the things that you're saying and the things that you're realizing are true and valid. And it's like you're on the right path because you're thinking about them. And I think that's necessary so much. Like there have been ideas that I've had, and I'm like, I think I need this much money to do this. And I think
yeah,
that's crazy. And they're like, no, you're right. Everyone else before was wrong. And that's why they don't exist anymore. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay, we're on to things. Like we can do
yeah,
this.
that's good. A nice support. And then I know I said that was my last question, but this one came to my mind as you were talking.
No, it's
As
fine.
you do all these things, what do you do in your free time? Do you have free time? Is there such a thing? I want to know personally, like, what do you do? How much of it do you have?
That's funny. I have free time. I'm laughing at myself on the inside. I have free time. I make time for the things that I want to do.
Okay.
So like I want to date. Like I'm single and I'm in my 20s. I shouldn't be single anymore. So I make time to date. I make time to like go to brunch and be with my friends. I
Shout
make
out to
time.
brunch. We
Yes,
outside this summer.
yes, have to be. All of that, like I make time for family and to like play with my son. It's just little pockets of time here and there. Sometimes they're really late. Sometimes I don't sleep for it, but just like I sacrifice for my work, I want to sacrifice for my social life too and for my mental health too. And so there's always those moments where like I have a journal, so I journal almost every day. And I have to do that because that's my mental space. Like I need to make sure I'm mentally clear to manage all of these things. And like my kid needs attention. Like I had to step away from the delivery this morning to like wish him good morning. And I got cussed out by a 6 year old for not being home. And it's like that's just a part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I make time for all the things I want to do. It's just my friends just know like if you don't talk to me for a week, it's not that I don't love you. I'm
right. A
busy.
lot
And
going on.
later. Yeah.
And the fact that you're basically Superwoman. So,
I'm not going into
um, does anyone in the audience have any last questions as we begin to close up? I'll give it a minute or two. So, how did you like going to Howard? Best thing ever?
last
That's what
day.
every Howard person says. Best thing ever.
Best thing ever. I'm also legacy, so my mother went to Howard too.
Hey, okay.
So I feel like I grew up like on the yard a little bit and
Yeah,
then got to like actually be one of those kids on the yard. It was so fun, so lit. If you're not a focused person, don't go to Howard.
if you're not a focus. I've also heard that a lot. That's crazy. That's a
There's
lot.
so many distractions. It's so quick to like be distracted. It's very easy.
Someone says talk about it. We here for it. But no, I almost went to Howard going for undergrad. I don't know why I didn't, but I like half the time I regret it. I was like, I should have gone to Howard. But
Where'd you go?
I went to a school called Marymount University. It's in
Oh,
Arlington, Virginia.
I'm Mary Beth.
So, but the thing is, I have never missed a Howard homecoming since I turned 18.
Well, yeah, of course. You're also way too close to miss it. It's just
Exactly.
it wouldn't be okay. I had my 19th birthday at Marymount.
Oh, did you?
I did.
How was that? That's not the best place. I don't recommend it if anyone watching.
I didn't remember it for all the wrong reasons.
Ooh.
I, okay.
Someone says, I just want to say that you are a superwoman. I said that too. And you're phenomenal, and I'm so proud of you. Love you.
I love you too.
With that being said,
Well, not Superwoman though. We're just human and we do a lot. But,
you just do extra a lot, but that's all right. We
okay.
aspire to be like you. Thank you very much for your time today, and we
You're,
hope everything goes well with the business and and work as well, and hopefully you get some more extra rest. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thanks.
Have a
Have
good
a
night.
good evening.
Bye.